Welcome to our B Agriculture Career Conversations. We're excited that you guys joined us and to have our three panelists here today to try to bring some ag careers into your classroom, wherever that may be for you right now, and look at how to be business-minded in the ag industry. Our whole goal is to really show you that you can take your interests and things that you love to do and you're passionate about and figure out how can you be that in agriculture. And so today we have three panelists with us to really focus on the business factor, the business sector of agriculture. This is part of a series. There's 9 of these career conversations that Michigan Farm Bureau is organizing for high school students, middle school students, some of you may be college students. So welcome, and we're excited that you're here today. A couple of features that you just need to be aware of. Everybody is muted and the videos are off, but you can still engage with our panelists. We have a list of questions we're going to go through, but if you do have questions that you'd like to ask them specifically, just drop your question in the Q&A box, and then we'll be able to see that and filter it in to the discussion. And if we don't get to all of the questions in our time together, we will make sure that those questions get answered and put that document in the YouTube description when we upload those videos. So without further ado, I think I have kind of went through all of our bullet points today, and I'll have each of the panelists, why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick and just tell us a little bit about your job and your title, and then we'll really dive into those questions. Matt, we will start with you. And Matt, I think you're on mute.
How's that? Okay, we'll get through it. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, my name's Matt Thelen. I'm the Central Region Crop Insurance Specialist for Farm Bureau, and I cover the whole Central Territory in the state. And I specialize in servicing and advising all of our members on a crop insurance basis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Creguer. My title is officially Territory Manager for Pioneer Seed in the Thumb area. So I cover Huron, St. Lac, and Tuscola County, and work with our team of sales reps in that area.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Marisa Bramer. I work with RaboAgriFinance. I'm a subsidiary and with a subsidiary of Rabo Bank out of the Netherlands. My role for the bank is Vice President of Relationship Manager, and I work with farm producers throughout the state of Michigan for their financing needs.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for taking time out of your days and fitting in just a chance to share with everybody kind of what you do. And we're going to kind of kick it off with, tell us what does a typical day look like for you? And Matt, if you want to kind of tackle that one first, just kind of, I know that probably every day looks a little different, but kind of give us the general idea of what you get to do.
Yeah, so generally the typical day for me is just getting out, hitting the road and stopping in at some of my farms, whether they're current clients or new clients, just checking in with maybe current clients, seeing how things are going for them, new clients, just stopping in and introducing myself. All my work that I do is on the farm with all of my farmers, so that's where I really like to spend the most of my time. And well, depending on the time of the year that we get together, there's certain sales seasons that we have to get their coverages established by, along with other dates that we have to abide by as well, by reporting previous production history and planted acres information and everything like that. So those times throughout the year, those are the different types of things that we're taking care of when we're together. But other than that, just seeing how things are going with them and addressing different risks, new risks that they might have on their operation, and just trying to find all the ways that we can help cover their farm income and revenue the best way possible.
Yeah, so I'm not sure there really is a typical day in my world, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about my job is the kind of the unpatterned approach and having something new to do at different times throughout the year. So much of what I do is kind of based on a growing season and sales season calendar. So I will spend most of my days, probably 3.5 to 4 days a week out on the road, either meeting with my sales reps and a customer, or talking directly with customers. So a lot of time spent traveling around under normal conditions. Obviously, with some of the restrictions lately, that's been a little different. So what that looks like on a typical day differs throughout the seasonal changes in agriculture. So when we're at the height of our sales season in the fall, it might be making combine rides, harvesting plots, or meeting with growers to go over their invoicing. In the wintertime, it might be attending industry meetings to make sure I'm up to speed on some of the current trends that's going on in the industry. This time of year in the springtime, it might be trying to make sure we have the last little bit of seed supply in place, or if there are changes needed within season, like what we ran into last year with some of the weather events, making sure we address that from an inventory and product supply standpoint. And then in the summertime, usually I spend a lot of time actually out physically walking fields with sales reps and growers and evaluating product, trying to get a picture of how the growing season is shaping up and what we're likely to see in the fall.
All right. Hi, folks. So what I do for RaboAgriFinance is I provide financing needs to farmers throughout the state of Michigan. And what that looks like on a typical day, similar to Chris and Matt, I don't really have a typical day. I spend a lot of time in the vehicle prospecting new businesses. But in order to do that, I spend a great deal of time doing research on the areas where I want to focus my time. For me, my background is in dairy production, so I understand that area of business the best. That's what I studied in my undergrad at Michigan State University. So I look at the Chicago Board of Trade, see where prices are at. I network with different industry professionals. I call those industry professionals that I work with center of influence. Folks would be salesmen like the Matt and Chris that talk to you. Also ag accountants and ag lawyers, people that are working with those farm operations to really help understand their profit and loss. When we are looking at a deal to determine whether they're going to be able to purchase a piece of land or a particular piece of equipment, we really want to understand that operation's profit and loss, their business structure. We call the things I analyze the 5 C's of credit. So I look at a customer's character, their credit worthiness, background, so their balance sheet, that's capital, capacity, their income statement, so analyzing their profit and loss, the income that they derive from their farming operation, and the expenses that they have. We really, really want to make sure that an operator understands the return on investment and make sure that they can repay their loan. We also provide research here at where I'm at to help understand. As a loan officer, I'm not just going to be looking at dairies that would really pigeonhole myself. So I spend a great deal of time trying to understand what's going on in the grain and oilseed market, livestock. Michigan is very diverse. So there really isn't a limit to what I can look at. We have fruit and vegetable growers. It's just a really fun place to work and do that. So I do travel a good part of the time meeting new clients, but again, I like to spend a lot of time researching and understanding kind of what they do before I go out on the farm, so I can be knowledgeable when I talk to them.
Awesome. Well, thanks. All 3 of them have like similarities, but there's a lot of differences. And so I'm just curious, what really drew you to your field? Like maybe it was a path that doors opened and it got you there, or you started out and you came right out of high school saying, this is what I'm going to do. But just curious on what particular aspects that you currently do made you say yes when you took this job?
So I've always been a real people person. A lot of my friends always called me a social butterfly, so that kind of ties in good to my role dealing with farmers every day. Just I've always loved talking with other people, getting to meet new people. Before I actually started with Farm Bureau, I was a life insurance agent, and that really showed me what my capabilities were in a sales environment, and that gave me a lot of the good background and sales experience that was required to fill this role once I got into it. So that really helped a lot. But the biggest thing that really drew me to my role is just being able to work with all of our fellow farmers. I'm from my family dairy farm myself. We still dairy farm where I'm from, Collar. So the farm has always been in my blood. It always will be. And getting to really share that lifestyle, that passion, that love with all of our other farmers that I get to come in contact with every day is where I get the most enjoyment from. So that's the biggest fun part of it for me right there.
Yeah, so I guess I can't remember a time when I wasn't involved in agriculture. You know, that's kind of how a lot of kids that grow up around farming, it just kind of becomes part of the family or the household. Grew up on a small beef operation where we had some feeder cattle. And then growing up, I always helped out on some local farms doing manual labor back in the day when kids still picked stones and pulled mustard and that sort of stuff before the Roundup era. So it wasn't that long ago. Keep that in mind. So grew up around crops and then got into livestock. In high school, I went to work at a large dairy farm and kind of worked my way up the ranks there and really enjoyed that production setting. And so that's what drew me into animal science. I was an animal science major at Michigan State. Also minored in agribusiness to have just more of the business management component and some of the training that comes with that. So then after college, I spent about 4 years managing a large dairy and again, enjoyed that side of it, the production, the expansion side, and then had an opportunity to move into the ag retail sales world with a chemical and fertilizer retailer. I had never seen myself as a salesman. You know, growing up, you always you have this like stigma or stereotype in your head about sales, and you think, I'm not a salesman. Well, I got involved in that world, and here I am 10 years into a sales career and really enjoy it. So, yeah, the part that I like best about agriculture is it kind of sounds cliche, but I do really enjoy the aspect that you're growing food, whether that's livestock or crops. You're involved in feeding, clothing, fueling the world. And that's a pretty noble cause to have. And it's something that we have a lot of routine and a lot of flexibility in my particular job. And so I enjoy that a great deal, not having to be chained to a desk, so to speak.
So my background, I grew up on a small farm in Montcalm County. Carson City is where I grew up. I've always known that I wanted to be in the ag industry as well, working alongside my dad and spending a lot of time with his folks on the farm really drove that desire to want to work in the industry. However, when I got into high school, I realized that my family's farming operation was going to intersect with a lot of other family members, and a farming operation can only feed so many mouths. So I had to start investigating some other ways and places in agriculture where I could fit. And that is the wonderful thing about agriculture. You can do so many different careers, as that will be the focus of this series here through Farm Bureau. I landed in the finance world, I guess, by a series of doors opening. Katie, you said it best. I was working for Harvey's commodities in Carson City, and in the evenings I still needed to make some more money, so I was working at my cousin's grocery store, and my mentor's wife walked in and asked me what I was going to do post MSU. And I was like, I really haven't figured that out yet. And that allowed me to have an opportunity at Farm Credit to work. And I realized I started out as a credit analyst. I think that was a really great place to start in the finance world. I worked with many different loan officers there, and I was able to understand the 5 Ps of credit and what it takes to make good decisions on the lending side of things. I'm very fortunate for Diane Schrader walking into the grocery store that one day and introducing me to the world of agricultural finance. And I really developed a passion for it. I started off in my career working in capital markets. So I worked with large agribusinesses and traveled throughout the United States, meeting with chief financial officers and understanding their businesses and their goals for growth and success. And it was fun to be a part of that success. I got married and didn't want to travel as much. So that's what brought me back to more to the financing, the producer side of things. And it's been just a wonderful road for my family. I meet a lot of producers, and I'm so excited when they invest in something and we can help them, and seeing what they accomplish, and seeing their dreams come true, and helping them come up with a plan for succession of their farming operations, which is really key. That's something in addition to just financing that you want to hone in with the family farm, is having a plan to transition your assets to the next generation. So it's been a fun job, and I'm really passionate about what I do.
I can tell by just watching your faces that you guys all have like just that passion. And I think it's really cool to listen to all of you, that you all came from, you know, production farm per se, and you still have a place, you know, so even if it doesn't work out on your family farm, you all are contributing. You all have such a big, just a team player. It's not just a, one person show or a one track industry, but there's just so many people that help, like Chris said, fuel, feed, and what was the other one that you said? You said fuel, feed, clothes. Yeah, I was thinking some 3 F's, but I'll go with that. That's
fuel and fiber.
Oh yeah, those are the 3. So, gosh, that's awesome. So, I can see your passion, and I can see that you all really love and enjoy what you do. But we all know that reality is there are parts of our job that, if we could do without, that would just take it right here. So, kind of share with all of us, what are those things that we should be aware of that, not necessarily. They're just part of the job. Anything you do, there's going to be some tough parts or parts that you're just not looking forward to, so that we can send students into these careers with eyes wide open to say, okay, I need to be prepared, and to then learn how to cope, or be prepared for those tasks that we don't really like. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about what are some things that, aren't your favorite part.
Yeah, so being in crop insurance, it's a federally organized, subsidized program, and being federally regulated, there is a lot of paperwork and a lot of regulations and dates and everything else that we have to abide by in our business. So really, there's not much that I can say about my job that I dislike, but if I did have to pick something, it probably would be just having to sit in an office at certain points and processing all the paperwork, because I need to be out on the road. I need to be out on the farm, talking with all of our fellow farmers. That's where I shine. That's where I want to be. But there are times where I just got to hold myself in that office chair and do all the paperwork processing. It's just nature of the beast. They go along with it. But that's probably one of the only few just like I'd say I got anything else. Don't ask us to be better.
Yeah, I think we could all agree that there's certain aspects as far as paperwork and administrative items that probably aren't the most desirable parts of a job. But, I think that comes with certainly any job in a corporate environment, but anymore, much of that spills over into farm level positions too, where there's regulatory things that you have to report on, record keeping, and the financial side of it, making sure your accounting's in order. And so, just be aware that some days you're not going to be able to go out and drive tractors. Some days you have to sit in your office and get the balance sheet done that Marisa asked you for a couple of weeks ago. And so she can finalize your loan, your operating loan. But I would say, in my world, one of the things that students should be aware of is, if you're going to go into sales, you need to have a little bit of a thick skin, because you need to understand that there are certain times, and Matt and Marisa have probably both experienced this, that either something doesn't go well in a customer relationship, or people just choose to do business with others because of prior relationships or whatever that might be. And you need to be able to handle that and move on, and continue to enjoy what you do, and continue to perform at a high level. So that's just one thing to be aware of, is that, when you go into sales, not everybody's going to be your customer and just come flocking to you and want to do business. And there's going to be some hard phone calls you have to receive sometimes, but you work through them and you move on. And, the next day is a new day, and chances are you'll get into a good situation again. So.
All right, I would say that the biggest challenge for me is the cold calling. It's so nerve-wracking to put on your boots those first time and drive up to a farm and ask for somebody's business. But you grow and you have experiences, and that's what makes you stronger. And it does get easier. And I do have to thank Michigan Farm Bureau for those additional opportunities to do some professional development. I've really come a long way with just the programming that Michigan Farm Bureau offers. When I started off in Young Farmers, attending different events that were hosted really helped. You've got to really make that investment in you and build up the courage to go. And it doesn't happen the first time out the door. It takes a succession of going out there and trying. Don't be afraid to fail. It's okay. That's when you learn the most. So that's my biggest advice. And find a mentor. That helps make it easier too. Mentors in my career have really helped guide my path. I knew I started out in credit and eventually wanted to become a loan officer. So I really reached out to the folks that I worked with, in every role I had, and made sure that I asked for understanding so I could reach my goal of becoming a loan officer. So having that mentor is key, and it does get easier.
Add to the mentor piece there. So some companies are really good at having a formalized structure where you're paired with a mentor or a trainer or someone to help onboard you. Other companies are not so good at it, and you have to seek it out yourself. And so don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and just find somebody that's really successful doing what they do, and they're probably, if they're in the same business unit you are, or in the same role, they're probably more than willing to spend some time kind of showing you the ropes. And if you get into a spot where you could just use some advice, maybe a monthly breakfast or just a call and say, hey, here's what I got going on. Any thoughts on it? Any advice?
That's great advice, and just great thoughts on how to approach this. I can just tell you guys are positive, and yep, there are times where you just gotta sit there in front of the desk. But I think any agri-science student, any high school student or college student knows that there's times where it's managing those record keeping and having to sit and do your AET, the FFA record keeping, and your ag teacher's like, you've got to get it in by Friday. You need it in for your degree award applications. And so, it's nice to know that all of that will translate into the real world someday, where you're like, okay, I really need to sit here. I just need to enter my stuff in. I need to finish my to-do list so that I get to go do the fun parts of my job. And I love that you touched on finding a mentor and taking care of yourself and developing yourself. I think in high school and in college, there's just a plethora of organizations and clubs, but once you get to out in the real world, like what do you do? What have you guys done to keep those networking opportunities available, to develop yourself personally and professionally? Whether that's a formal training or formal education or an informal. So can you kind of share how do you guys keep up with networks and hot topics and just your education and professional development?
So for me, just being in crop insurance, you have to maintain a different level of certification every year to be able to even be licensed to sell crop insurance as a whole. So every year we have to get our recertifications for that. And then also being in insurance, we have to have state licensing certifications as well. And so I'm constantly taking continuing education credit courses throughout every year just to keep my state credits where they need to be so I can maintain my state licenses. So those are the two main things. But other than that, just ways to stay on top of things in the ag industry. Just I have different, like Marisa said, centers of influence that I rely on and bend their ears every now and then in different aspects of the agricultural industry just to stay on the up and up with where things are at, where things are going. So that way I can be a more well-rounded resource for my farmers, not just on crop insurance, but in other things as well in the industry.
Yeah, I think you said it well, Matt, that in each of our three roles, you can benefit from being a well-rounded resource because customers that each of us are dealing with, they want you to be knowledgeable about more than just your very narrow part of the business. So in terms of, formal education, I am in the process, hopefully finishing up very soon, of completing my online master's in agronomy through Iowa State University. So many colleges and universities are offering online programs like that anymore that are really flexible when you are in a career and don't necessarily have time or the opportunity to do in-person classes on campus. So that's a really good option to look into. I've had several colleagues that have done a Master of Business Administration programs. It's either a night, weekend, online stuff too. So that's a really good option to use as a resume builder type thing. In terms of professional organizations, very involved with Michigan Farm Bureau and try and stay up on the policy side of it, particularly how it affects certain parts of our industry, and also really closely involved with Michigan corn growers. I now sit on the state board just because Pioneer in the end is a seed corn company, and we've got a pretty vested interest in the Michigan corn industry. So, and then on the informal side, I think there's a lot of industry meetings. You can find just about an industry meeting every day in the wintertime that you could go to keep yourself current and understand some of the current trends in ag. They have things like statewide meetings like the Great Lakes Crop Summit. Michigan State puts on a great pest management update in the wintertime that's statewide, but just being current and making sure that you are understanding forces at play in the industry.
So Matt and Chris touched on some really good points, and I do some of those things. So I will hone in on some of the things that you can focus on in your collegiate career that, if you're interested in finance, would really be helpful. Economics. Grab an economics course, macroeconomics, microeconomics, and then agricultural economics if you choose to study an agriculture-focused career. Math, doesn't hurt to help to have math. Accounting, you want to have a good understanding of accounting or even if you just want to run your own farming operation, it's always good to understand and have a goal and understand your profit and loss and how that relates to the balance sheet. Because if you go to a lender, they're going to ask you for those things, and they're going to ask you for a business plan. So any classes that you can have at the collegiate level to help you develop a business plan, or, you know, one of the things I was thinking of were extracurricular opportunities. 4-H. I didn't take part in that when I was a youth because I was always running, but that is a great way. Let's say you're raising a calf and you want to sell it at the fair. Well, there's a cost to having that animal. So, you know, lay down what that cost is going to be. How much feed are you going to have to buy to get it to the finishing weight? And all of the things that you need to go in. So it's not just feed, your time, the opportunity cost. Lay all of that out. What you got to pay your parents to haul back and forth, the gas, the fuel, and then drill in that cost that you want. That's so important to have a goal and a roadmap to get there, and your financials help you do that. A great place to go on the internet is the Farm Financial Standards. I can share that with Katie. But that's a great way. Agriculture is unique in the way that we do the accounting for ag. So that is a great resource for understanding how to look at your accounting for an agricultural industry. So those are definitely some things in college that you should focus on if you're interested in the world of finance. But in my opinion, you really want to understand your financials for anything you do. You need to repay your college tuition. Understanding your finance is the way to do it. Knowing what you need to tuck and save, where you can go ahead and make a splurge on a purchase, and remembering that there's an opportunity cost for those things.
Awesome. I want to continue on that thought and just curious on what other classes or interests or hobbies do you kind of see, you know, if a student is watching this right now and is not really sure what they want to do, but they could be like, I really like to do this. You know, what would that be that would go, yeah, that would fit really well in sales or finance or insurance or accounting? What are some of those interests or the classes that they like to take? Where do you, or the extracurricular activities, what are some of those, if we could build on that a little bit, that might just be the light bulb that goes, oh, I like 3 of those 5 things. Maybe I should check this out.
Yeah, just like Chris and Marisa said, you know, there's, as far as courses go, I mean, it's like Marisa said, economics is definitely a good one to focus your efforts on. In crop insurance, you know, looking at risk management courses, that's a good avenue as well, because that's what I do every day is look at risk management techniques for my farmers. And then aside from that, just business courses. I've got business education when I went out of high school. So that also will help a lot down the road for you. And then other than that, as far as any hobbies or interests that are good to have, just being out, being willing to talk to new people, meet new people. All of my business is based around establishing those new relationships, and you really have to be willing to go out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's not easy for you to really branch out and go talk to new people. So you really got to just be able to be open like that. So that's about it.
Yeah, so along those same lines, I think anything to do with finance and economic courses, and then management in terms of understanding how to develop a business plan and run a business, that's going to be universally valuable to you no matter where you go in life, whether it's your, as Marisa talked about, your personal finances and running your house, or if you're running a multi-million-dollar business. So you're never going to go wrong with those classes. A couple of other things that I would encourage students to do is get involved with some of the extracurricular clubs when you're on campus. So that could be the agronomy club, dairy club. There's, I'm drawing a blank now, the agribusiness, NAMA, right? there's, if it's still around, Alpha Zeta, the Honor Society, Collegiate Farm Bureau. The point is, as Matt kind of talked about, getting you out of your comfort zone to where you have to work to plan certain projects or work in groups, make some presentations. The more that you push yourself to do something like that, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. And it'll pay off later in life when you have to put yourself in those situations. The other side that I would really strongly encourage kids to do while they're at college is get involved and take the opportunity to do some internships or some summer jobs within the industry. And don't necessarily pigeonhole yourself and say, you know, I'm a dairy kid and I want to go back and run a dairy farm, and so I'm going to go work on a dairy every summer, right? You might, maybe there's something in sales, maybe there's something in retail, maybe there's something in crop insurance, banking, whatever it might be. Take an opportunity to see some other aspects of agriculture and how your current interests might translate into that particular segment, because ag is a very tight-knit industry, and oftentimes you can develop some really good contacts that will serve you down the road. You know, as Marisa talked about, somebody walking into a grocery store and it leads to a change in a career path type thing. So I would just really encourage you, you know, you've got some years in college to kind of find out what you want to do. And part of that can be, a large part of that could be an internship.
I want to piggyback off of what Chris was talking about with your internships. Think outside of the box as you're developing yourself. So right now, as we're dealing with this current COVID situation, one of the things that is really challenging the industry is logistics and not having enough capacity to process all of the amazing ag products that we do. So it's good to understand. For me, it was helpful working at the grocery store and understanding that supply chain and how all of those pieces fit together in agriculture. Or, you know, working in the retail, well, that's the grocery store, working for a restaurant, understanding how they source their products, what type of products that they need to buy, and planning for, you know, the customers that they're going to have. You can learn a lot from different business people. It doesn't just need to be agriculture. So when I was in college, I cooked in the dorms. I made meals for students. And you really see when you're making eggs for all of those students, you're not just cracking a single egg. You're getting shell eggs that are processed and in a container. And that just helps build that awareness of everything that has to go into moving our product from the farm to the shelf to that consumer. Another great way to get involved is being involved with Katie's team through Collegiate Farm Bureau. There are some great opportunities out there to further develop your interest, and those will be changing and growing all the time. So take advantage, invest in yourself, and, you know, don't be afraid to have a job in college. It teaches you how to multitask. I tell you what, I'm really learning how to multitask now as a stay-at-home mom, a teacher, and somebody involved in finance. So, and developing those relationships is key, because if I didn't have my friend Kim, a relationship I developed through agriculture, I wouldn't have a sitter for my children. So develop relationships. It opens doors and endless possibilities.
Awesome. Gosh, thanks, guys. Those are just awesome tips, you know, and just words of wisdom, I think we can all say, because, I mean, we've all been out of college now at least 15, 20 years, right? Would that be true? Okay. And so, but here's the cool thing, you know, those relationships that we've all made back in all those organizations that you guys have talked about, or at college or at a school, you're still in those networks, right? And we're still able to just reach out and help each other whenever, which is so cool. And I think, Chris, you hit it right on the head that ag is a tight-knit network. And so once, you know, you start getting to know people, you realize everybody knows everybody, and that's a pretty cool it's a pretty cool family to be a part of, and get to do such a, just, be able to do our passions, be able to have our passions, and get to do that every single day. So as we wrap up, last words of wisdom, thoughts, for students that are going, this business-minded, I really could see myself being business-minded in agriculture. Just last thoughts on either, one last tip or words of wisdom, or maybe it's something that a mentor shared with you that you would want to leave those that are watching this.
Yeah, I'd say just be open to any career in agriculture. Like Chris was saying there, don't pigeonhole yourself just in one aspect. Agriculture, if you come off with family dairy or something like that. Like me, for example, I thought when I was growing up that I just wanted to be on the dairy farm, take it over myself, on the road. And even though I still have a part in the farm today, as I grew up, I realized, like Chris was saying, that there's only so many mouths that the family farm can feed efficiently. And, some like me, I had to go and look at other means of income. So I never would have thought that I would have fallen into the role that I am today, but I couldn't be more grateful for it looking back. So you never know what the future holds for you. So just don't be afraid to look at different opportunities. Basically, keep an open mindset and talk to different, professionals in different industries, get their perspectives on different roles that they have in the ag industry. The more people you talk to, the more information that you can acquire, the better, just to help kind of guide your decisions down the road.
So I guess my last bit of advice to impart would be to excel at every job that you have, because you never know what door that's going to open down the road. So take it seriously and try to do the very best at anything that you do, and people are going to notice that down the road. So show up on time, dress appropriately, put your phone away, and most importantly, seek out the people that are really successful in your field and pick their brain and ask them, how did you get here? What are you doing right, or what do you think I need to improve on, and ask for some coaching. So
my advice to you young folks out there is invest in yourself. Understand your financial position and have a goal in mind. Without a goal, there's no clear path to getting there. It's so important to have a savings for the rainy day, not to spend everything. You get like that first check from your first paycheck and your job in college, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to go spend it. Tuck some away. It teaches you a lot. Have a plan, because regardless of whether or not you're going in the finance world, you need to understand your financial position. Generally, most people don't have all that cash for that first car or their first home. Credit score is so important. So start early in building that credit. So open up a small credit card, borrow on it, repay the debt every month as agreed. That way you establish that credit score for yourself, because you're always going to need it as an adult. So that's my key advice. And I wish somebody would have told me that when I was in college.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those. And guys, just thanks for taking some time today to just share how you've developed as a professional and personally in this business world. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. And to our attendees, make sure that you check out, there's 8 other bee agriculture career conversations out there. So check that out. If business maybe isn't, after listening to this, sometimes the best thing is to put yourself out there and realize, maybe I need to go a different route, or, and so check out those other 8 career conversations. If Be Business Minded is something that, it just sparks an interest in you today in listening, this video is on YouTube, and if you check the description below, there's a ton of links that we will share with you that our panelists have shared with us, so that you can just dive deeper into this career area, the sector of agriculture. And as always, feel free to reach out to us at any given time. And my contact information is down there as well. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll let our attendees head out for the day. And you guys have a wonderful afternoon.